The scene in the courtroom was filled with a rare sense of quiet apprehension, as Judge Edith H. Jones, one of the most highly esteemed and revered figures within the judicial establishment of the United States, prepared to deliver her verdict. For nearly 40 years, Judge Jones had managed an immense caseload with a combination of unwavering authority and an undeniable sense of responsibility, earning widespread admiration from colleagues, legal scholars, and the public alike. Her reputation as one of the most formidable and fair-minded jurists in the nation was solidified by her consistent display of judicial integrity and sagacious decision-making. However, that particular day marked a departure from the norm. Today, she was set to pass judgment on a case that had been at the forefront of national discourse and had, for a considerable time, sharply divided public opinion and political circles. The controversy centered on a recent statement made by Congresswoman Jasmine Crocketts, which appeared to challenge the traditional understanding of the constitutional framework that underpins the American judicial and legislative systems. As Judge Jones prepared to speak, her words carried the weight of decades of legal experience, an experience built on meticulous scholarship, rigorous analysis, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The proceedings began with the judge addressing the assembly, her voice steady, yet conveying the seriousness of her message. She expressed concern over Crocketts' recent comments regarding the country's constitutionally defined relationship between government branches. "Your recent remarks about our constitutional framework are troubling," she said, highlighting the potential threat these statements pose to the fundamental principles of American governance. She emphasized that such interpretations, if taken at face value, could severely undermine the balance of powers that the Constitution meticulously established. Her words made it clear that while local attorneys, journalists, and citizens had historically accepted the judiciary's role as a guiding beacon of the rule of law, the current situation threatened to set that delicate equilibrium off course. What happened next, however, was nothing short of extraordinary. Before the participants or even the audience realized, Jasmine Crocketts responded with a declaration that stunned everyone present. Her statement was delivered with remarkable precision and passion, leaving many in the courtroom momentarily speechless. Crocketts' reply was so powerful and succinct that it not only commanded immediate attention, but also turned the entire proceedings into a moment of profound political and moral significance. The intensity of her words ignited a wave of silent admiration and ignited a chorus of loud, enduring applause from the spectators, transforming the atmosphere in the courtroom from one of routine judicial debate to a compelling demonstration of civic virtue. This encounter went far beyond a mere legal reprimand. It symbolized a renewed sense of respect, humility, and the profound importance of public service, values that are central to the proper functioning of American democracy. Such moments, where the law and ethics converge in a singular event of clarity and moral courage, serve as vital reminders of why judicial independence and integrity are so crucial. They encapsulate the very essence of what sustains faith in American institutions, moments when character and principle shine brightest in the face of political pressure and societal challenges. As this historic clash unfolded, it was essential for viewers to understand that these instances exemplify the core qualities that uphold democracy itself. To witness such dialogue, where the highest legal authority and a fearless elected representative engage with honesty and conviction, is to see the very principles of governance in action. These are the moments that reinforce confidence in the system, ensuring that the rule of law remains sacred, revered, and resilient amidst shifting political tides. At the very heart of this pivotal event were two remarkable women, each representing a different facet of U.S. leadership and judicial strength. One, a distinguished figure in the judiciary, exemplifies the highest standards of legal excellence. The other, a rising star in the political arena, embodies the dynamic spirit of American democracy. Judge Edith Holland Jones, a distinguished jurist appointed to the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals by President Ronald Reagan in the year of 1985, exemplifies unwavering dedication to justice. Over her remarkable career spanning nearly 4 decades, she has delivered judgments in well over 3,000 cases. Her decisions are consistently characterized by a blend of profound legal knowledge, balanced reasoning, and an unshakable respect for constitutional principles. Now, at the age of 74, Judge Jones remains a formidable presence in the judiciary. Her reputation is rooted not only in her extensive experience, but also in her unique ability to combine rigorous legal analysis with a rare sense of moral clarity. Her background reflects her roots in Philadelphia, where she was raised in a household grounded in strong, ethical values. Her academic journey led her first to Cornell University and subsequently to the University of Texas School of Law, where she distinguished herself as one of a very limited number of women in her graduating class. Throughout her illustrious career, she has become renowned for her sharp intellect, precise legal style, and unwavering conviction that a robust and independent judiciary is vital to preserving the American way of life. Recently, however, Judge Jones has expressed growing concern over the increasing political assaults targeting the courts. She has watched with a mixture of worry and dismay as certain politicians openly questioned the legitimacy of federal court rulings that do not always align with their own agendas. Her apprehension stems from her deep understanding of the importance of judicial independence, which is fundamental to maintaining the checks and balances that protect individual freedoms and uphold the Constitution. She recognizes that political interference threatens to erode the credibility and the moral authority of the judiciary, an institution that, for generations, has served as a cornerstone of American democracy. Yet, despite these challenges, she remains committed to her duty, aware that moments like the recent confrontation in court, where law, ethics, and courage intersect, are precisely what reaffirm public trust. These episodes serve as vital reminders that the integrity of the judiciary must be defended fiercely whenever threatened, and that the principles of justice and fairness must always take precedence over fleeting political gains. In her eyes, this ongoing struggle is not only about legal interpretation, but also about safeguarding the very soul of the nation. In conclusion, the encounter we have just witnessed, the exchange between a seasoned federal judge and a spirited congresswoman, was more than a simple courtroom dispute. It was a powerful testament to the enduring resilience and moral fiber of the American legal system. It reflected the fundamental values that still underpin the nation's democracy, values of integrity, respect, and unwavering dedication to truth. These are the virtues that inspire confidence and hope, reminding us all that, even in turbulent times, the rule of law continues to serve as the guiding light for the United States of America. In the midst of a political landscape constantly teeming with noise and differing opinions, there emerged a figure whose words and actions stirred both admiration and controversy. Jasmine Crockett, a woman whose name was becoming increasingly familiar in the corridors of Congress, held an authoritative presence that seemed almost inevitable given her extensive background and uncompromising stance. At the age of 43, this native of Texas had carved out a reputation as an ardent advocate for civil rights, someone deeply committed to defending the rights of those who often fell through the cracks of systemic injustice. Her career, built upon years of activism and dedication, positioned her as a trusted voice within the realm of social justice, earning her recognition as a resilient defender of the underserved and marginalized communities. Crockett's journey to the congressional halls was marked by a fierce determination to challenge and overturn deeply rooted inequalities that had persisted for decades. Her advocacy aimed at reforming structures that perpetuated discrimination and imbalance, and her public appearances frequently reflected her unwavering commitment. She was perceived as a confident, assured advocate, an individual whose integrity and conviction resonated with many who believed in the cause of equitable justice. Her reputation as a straightforward supporter of civil rights and systemic change was well-earned and widely acknowledged within political and activist circles alike. However, recent developments and her more outspoken positions had sparked a noticeable shift in her relationship with certain segments of the political community and the broader legal establishment. During public hearings and televised appearances, Crockett had voiced strong criticisms of some federal judicial decisions. She criticized certain rulings as outdated, what she called anachronistic, arguing that some courts were more often hindering progress than promoting justice. She suggested that some judicial bodies had become obstacles, impeding the march toward genuine fairness instead of facilitating it. Her comments, while praised by her supporters for their courage and honesty, drew sharp rebuke from others who viewed her remarks as inappropriate challenges to the authority of the courts and the established order. This marked a period of tension and debate within the political and legal spheres. Supporters saw her statements as necessary calls for reform, starkly highlighting the urgent need to address systemic issues that persisted in the judicial system. Opponents, however, believed her words crossed the boundaries of civil discourse, risking undermining respect for the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary. As the controversy intensified, whispers grew louder that her candidness, although admirable to many, might be causing a rift with more traditional legal circles. Amidst these conflicting opinions, an established pattern had begun to emerge. Crockett's outspoken stance was attracting attention and stirring debate about the proper relationship between legislative voices and judicial authority. Some called for the bar associations, professional organizations representing lawyers and judges, to intervene. They argued that discussions about judicial decisions should refrain from personal criticisms or public confrontations, reminding participants of the importance of maintaining decorum during the formal sessions of the Federal Administrative Conference held annually. This gathering, an important venue where judges, attorneys, and sometimes senior officials convened, traditionally served as a forum for discussing pressing issues within the legal system and exploring avenues for reform. In this context, Crockett had been invited to speak on the topic of criminal justice reform, a subject she was passionate about and believed to be essential for the progress of society. Her participation promised both a moment of recognition and a potential turning point in her advocacy career. Her speech was carefully prepared, aimed at addressing the deep-seated problems related to sentencing disparities, deplorable prison conditions, and the urgent need for profound systemic reform. She approached her audience with a genuine conviction, presenting her ideas with a clear and well-researched argument that highlighted the critical nature of these issues. As Crockett took the stage, it was evident that her presentation was more than just a routine speech. It was an impassioned plea for change. Her words were delivered with a palpable energy, capturing the attention of everyone present. She spoke of the injustices faced by countless individuals caught in the complexities of the criminal justice system, those who often suffered under harsh sentences, endured in overcrowded and underfunded prisons, and faced systemic barriers designed to perpetuate inequality rather than eliminate it. Her tone reflected deep concern and unwavering dedication, emphasizing that reform was not merely an option, but an urgent moral obligation. For the initial part of her speech, Crockett outlined her legislative priorities, emphasizing the necessity of addressing sentencing disparities and improving prison conditions. Her words resonated with listeners who shared her vision of a more equitable and humane justice system. She detailed her aspirations for meaningful reform, aiming to reshape policies and practices to ensure fairness and dignity for all individuals affected by the system. Her words drew nods of approval from her supporters, who appreciated her honest critique of existing flaws and her clear articulation of the path toward justice. But approximately 15 minutes into her discourse, a noticeable shift occurred. Her tone grew more intense, her passion boiling over into a more forceful expression of her views. She asserted that, in her perspective, two federal judges, whom she identified, were entrenched in outdated modes of thinking that no longer aligned with modern society's evolving understanding of justice and fairness. She argued that their interpretations of the law needed to evolve, an essential progression as the societal conscience matured and new standards for equity took hold. Her voice echoed with conviction, compelling the room to listen carefully to her critique. As she continued, the courtroom filled with a subdued murmur, a mixture of surprise, discomfort, and curiosity. Several of the judges and lawyers present shifted uncomfortably in their seats, caught off guard by the strength of her words. Crocketts' rhetoric became more passionate, her ardor visible to all, as she challenged her colleagues and the entire judicial establishment. She posed a provocative question. When courts issue rulings that perpetuate systemic inequality, are they truly delivering just and fair outcomes, or are they merely maintaining a status quo rooted in obsolescence? Her assertion implied that some judgments could be viewed as either genuine acts of justice or mere perpetuations of an outdated system, an idea that generated a low, restless hum of conversation among the attendees. Despite the rising tension in the courtroom, Crocketts' composure remained strong. From her position in the front row, particularly from the seat of Judge Jones, who sat relaxed but observant, her fervor was unmistakable. Those familiar with her could notice the subtle signs of her growing emotional investment. The rare, almost imperceptible tightening around her eyes, an expression often reserved for moments when her resolve and conviction reached a new peak. Her calm exterior masked the intensity of her belief that the time for incremental change had passed, that fundamental reform was now an undeniable necessity. In her closing remarks, she reinforced her stance that when judges continue to uphold rulings that allow systemic inequality to persist, they must confront whether they are truly serving justice or merely facilitating a flawed system resistant to change. The room was thick with unspoken questions about the true meaning of justice in contemporary society, and whether the courts could, or should, remain bound by practices rooted in age-old interpretations. Her passionate challenge left her audience contemplating the delicate balance between respecting judicial authority and demanding fresh perspectives grounded in fairness, equity, and moral responsibility. Throughout this intense moment, Judge Jones maintained her composure, listening carefully without interruption. Yet, those who observed her closely detected a subtle but significant change, a brief, almost unnoticeable narrowing of her eyes, suggesting that beneath her calm surface, her thoughts were stirring. It was as if Crocketts' words had ignited a spark of reflection within her, hinting at an internal conflict, a recognition that perhaps her own views, as well as those of her colleagues, might need to evolve in step with society's growing understanding of justice and equality. This scene from that morning session within the federal conference atmosphere encapsulated a powerful act of advocacy, one that underscored the importance of open, honest dialogue about the direction of justice and the role judges and lawmakers play in shaping a fairer society. It was an illustration of how passionate expression, even when controversial, can challenge entrenched ideas, stimulate debate, and ultimately push institutions toward meaningful reform. Once, in the intricate arena of the judiciary, a young and eager apprentice named Crockett found herself embroiled in a situation that tested her understanding of justice, authority, and the delicate balance of power within the legal system. Her role was often misunderstood as merely following the prescribed procedures. But, as she learned over time, the courtroom was a place where the fabric of justice was woven with threads of experience, wisdom, and a keen sense of fairness. Her convictions about the importance of accountability and integrity in decision-making had been shaped by her dedication to the pursuit of truth and her firm belief that a true judge's role extended far beyond mere application of laws. It required an unwavering commitment to fairness, especially toward those most vulnerable. The atmosphere in the courtroom that day was thick with tension, a reflection of the serious debates swirling around the legitimacy of judicial authority and the responsibilities attendant upon those who serve as guardians of the law. A certain controversy had arisen recently, an argument that cast a shadow on the traditional understanding of judicial independence and the role of the courts within the broader social contract. Some voices questioned whether judges should operate solely within the boundaries of constitutional and legal precedents, or whether their decisions should sometimes be influenced by public outcomes and societal needs. This tension had contributed to a charged environment where every word and gesture could carry significant weight. What had initially begun as a routine exchange, an assertive assertion of legal principles, gradually escalated into a far more direct confrontation. The participants, now visibly tense, exchanged looks that betrayed the seriousness of their disagreement. It was clear that the discussion was reaching a pivotal moment, one that could determine the future perception of judicial authority and its limits. Anxiety and anticipation coursed through the room as everyone sensed the importance of what was unfolding. At the center of this intense exchange was Judge Jones, a woman of considerable experience who, after years of service on the bench, was well acquainted with the weight of responsibility her position represented. At the age of 74, she still carried herself with quiet authority, her demeanor illustrating the depth of her commitment to justice. Rising from her seat with calm deliberation, she moved gracefully toward the podium, the room falling silent in reverence and expectation. Her presence commanded attention, not merely because of her age or position, but because of the dignity and careful gravity she brought to her words. "Congresswoman Crockett," Judge Jones began, her voice steady yet measured, "I acknowledge your dedication to reforming the legal system and improving access to justice. However, I must also address and clarify some concerns about the implications that arise from your recent remarks." Her tone, while respectful, was unmistakably firm. The courtroom, and indeed everyone present, understood that these words carried significant weight because they struck at core principles that uphold the integrity of the judiciary. Crockett, visibly taken aback by the judge's precise intervention, straightened her posture and directed her gaze firmly toward the judge at the podium. Two powerful figures, one a congresswoman, the other a seasoned judge, stood face to face in that moment, a symbolic confrontation that seemed to challenge the very foundation of institutional respect and the mutual boundaries that helped maintain the delicate harmony between different branches of government. "You claim to advocate for reforms that are rooted in fairness and equal justice," Judge Jones continued. "Yet, your recent statements, including the ones you made today, seem to reflect a troubling misunderstanding of our judicial role. You suggest that decisions should sometimes depend more on societal outcomes rather than strictly adhering to constitutional principles and established precedents." Her words emphasized the importance of maintaining the core tenets of judicial independence, which are vital for ensuring that the rule of law remains unblemished and that courts aren't swayed by transient public opinion or political pressures. Her voice remained calm, but delivered with an undeniable authority that made her message clear. Furthermore, your suggestion that administrative authority could be influenced by external factors, such as supposed public satisfaction, sets a dangerous precedent. If we begin to measure judicial decisions by their popularity rather than their fairness and legality, we risk undermining the very foundation upon which our institutions are built. Our nation's founders envisioned a judiciary capable of standing independent, protecting individual liberties against the potential encroachments of both majoritarian impulses and other branches of government. Judge Jones paused briefly to let her words settle, her gaze fixed intently on Crockett, who listened carefully. The room grew even more silent, every eye fixed on the resolve and gravity displayed by both women. This exchange was more than a mere disagreement. It was a moment that could reaffirm or threaten the principles of judicial independence, an essential pillar of democracy on which the entire system depended. The tone was softer than before, yet the message was no less potent, a reminder of the solemn responsibility that judges carry and the importance of safeguarding the integrity of justice. Then, With her voice now slightly more contemplative, Judge Jones added, "You also propose that administrative authority be judged by superficial criteria, like the satisfaction of the public or the outcome of societal experiments. Such a stance could dangerously open the door to decisions driven by expediency rather than justice. This, I must emphasize, is a path fraught with peril, as it threatens to compromise the independence of the judiciary, an independence that our founders prioritized above all else to ensure liberty, fairness, and the rule of law endure." Crockett stood quietly, absorbing the full weight of the judge's words. Her expression betrayed a moment of internal reflection, recognizing the profound importance of maintaining the integrity and independence of the judicial system. The courtroom remained enveloped in a tense stillness, every observer acutely aware that the encounter was not merely a clash of opinions, but a defining moment, an opportunity for each side to understand the profound responsibilities inherent in their roles. This exchange marked a turning point, an embodiment of the ongoing struggle to balance reform and tradition, progress and stability within our governance framework. It was evident that Judge Jones had, through her dignified yet firm stance, conveyed a message that would resonate beyond that day, serving as a reminder that the pursuit of justice must be rooted in unwavering principles, regardless of the pressures or temptations that might challenge them. In conclusion, her words underscored a fundamental truth, that the independence of the judiciary, rooted in legal precedent and constitutional safeguards, is not an obstacle to reform, but the very foundation that ensures reforms are just, fair, and sustainable. Their exchange, though seemingly tense, revealed a shared commitment to justice, each representing different visions of progress, yet united in their conviction that the integrity of the legal system must always be preserved, defended, and celebrated as the cornerstone of democracy. When discussing the nature of how we interpret and respond to contested administrative decisions, it's crucial to recognize that judging solely based on the outcomes, rather than considering the underlying reasoning and justifications, can lead to a dangerous erosion of confidence in our judicial institutions, as Adjudicator Jones pointed out. This tendency to evaluate rulings only by their results, without paying proper attention to the legal processes and principles that inform them, risks creating a disturbing pattern of diminishing trust in the courts. When courts are seen merely as entities delivering verdicts without regard to sound reasoning, it can foster an unsettling atmosphere where accessible assurance, the fundamental belief that the justice system is fair and rational, begins to wear thin. This phenomenon, which could be compared to a gradual abrasion, is perilous because it undermines the very foundation of judicial authority, which relies heavily on the perception that decisions are rooted in consistent and transparent legal principles rather than fleeting political or public sentiments. This decline in trust, if left unchecked, can have tangible consequences. It's much like the damage caused by an accidental fall from a fragile scaffold, an incident that might seem minor but can ultimately compromise the stability of the entire structure. In this case, the metaphor illustrates how the loss of faith in judicial processes can weaken the communities that rely on these institutions for justice and order. These communities, which often expect their courts to serve as protectors of fairness and impartiality, suffer when their confidence in equitable decision-making erodes under the weight of perceived arbitrariness or superficiality. The core issue here is that the essence of the law is rooted in the authority vested in it, its very archetype, implying that true power lies not merely in the ability to deliver outcomes, but in the respect for established legal norms. Crockett's attentive listening to Adjudicator Jones's reflections revealed her own awareness of the delicate balance at play. Her response demonstrated a remarkable shift from defensiveness into a state of genuine acknowledgement and open humility. She expressed her understanding that her previous frustrations with certain rulings might have led her to make accusations or statements that were inappropriate and unjustified given the context. Her words indicated an honest recognition of her misjudgment and an earnest desire to reconcile her stance with the foundational principles that uphold legal independence. She posed a vital question. How can someone in her position continue to work towards a more constructive and collaborative approach while still respecting the vital independence of administrative agencies? This inquiry was emblematic of a broader introspective process, an effort to reconcile personal disappointment with professional integrity, aiming to uphold the integrity of the judicial system. Her reflection prompted the courtroom to consider how vulnerability and humility can serve as powerful tools in restoring trust, not just for her own reputation, but for the justice system as a whole. What transpired next was striking. Instead of retreating into silence or defensiveness, Crockett chose to speak openly about her feelings. Her voice, once perhaps tense or uncertain, now carried a newfound calm and confidence. She admitted that her earlier expressions of dissatisfaction had been driven by her perception of bias or unfairness in certain rulings. Yet she recognized that her responses had been inappropriate and lacked decorum. In her own words, she admitted, "I should have known better," emphasizing that she ought to have remembered that the bedrock of our legal system rests firmly on its independence, not on the whims of public opinion or short-term trends. She acknowledged that her earlier stance reflected a misjudgment, but this acknowledgement was more than mere words. It was a profound act of humility. Her shift in tone was remarkable. What had initially seemed like a contentious dispute evolved into a genuine exchange rooted in mutual respect and understanding. The atmosphere in the courtroom transformed from one of tension to one of reflection, a subtle yet powerful testament to the capacity of sincere remorse and humility to foster reconciliation, even in a setting of high stakes. Many senior legal professionals, including experienced attorneys watching the proceedings, later stated that they were moved almost to tears by Crockett's candor. Her words touched a raw nerve and revealed a deeply honest moment that was rare to witness in the often formal world of judicial proceedings. The moment felt like a rare breach in the typical veneer of courtroom decorum, a genuine display of human vulnerability that resonated with everyone present. For some, it seemed to remind them of the core values that underpin justice: fairness, humility, and the willingness to admit imperfection. Following her expressive apology and reflection, Adjudicator Jones approached the podium once more. Her appearance was quiet but poignant, that quiet dignity of someone who has patiently endured, who has carried the weight of responsibility with solemnity. Her steady departure from aesthetic or superficial appearances to a more sincere, almost mentorship-like presence radiated a quiet authority and calmness, signaling her readiness to move forward with a sense of mutual understanding and renewed respect. The stillness in the courtroom was palpable. Even the most detached observers felt the significance of this moment, a testament to how personal humility can elevate the entire judicial process, transforming what could have been a moment of controversy into one of authentic connection. The Congresswoman's unwavering attention offered a powerful reminder of the vital role that our independent institutions play in preserving the integrity of our democratic system. Her display of courage, admitting to mistakes openly, even when such admissions might be unconventional or risky within her position, demonstrated a rare kind of humility and resilience. She paused for a moment, allowing her words to settle and resonate, before emphasizing that a genuine commitment to justice requires that we continually direct our efforts and energies toward the right goals. For her, ensuring that our legal and institutional framework functions correctly and fairly is fundamental, a cornerstone in the ongoing process of evolution and reform within our society. She went on to explain that the legislative body, what one might call the Assembly of Representatives, serves a crucial and analytical function in the process of amending and shaping laws. These laws, though designed to serve the public good, often require careful scrutiny and adjustment to truly meet the needs they aim to address. Her point was clear. The true challenge does not lie solely in setting goals or ambitions, but rather in the methods and strategies employed to implement those goals effectively. It is the approach that determines whether reforms are meaningful or superficial. Crockett listened carefully, her thoughtful expression reflecting her deep engagement. Her usual confident tone had softened. Her speech no longer carried the accent that might have once sounded assertive or even stern. Instead, it reflected an openness to understanding and learning. When the judge, Judge Jones, was asked if she could offer guidance on how to champion reforms one believes in, while still respecting the vital independence of administrative agencies, her response revealed a rare insight. She acknowledged that the moment shared was extraordinary, a sitting member of Congress seeking advice from a federal judge about the best way to do her job in a manner that remains both principled and effective. This interaction marked a truly remarkable moment, one that resonated deeply within the courtroom. It was not merely a routine exchange. They were engaged in a meaningful dialogue about the core principles of governance. The presence of a federal judge offering counsel on how to uphold constitutional integrity while pursuing reform underscored the importance of cooperation across branches. The atmosphere was tinged with a palpable sense of humility and purpose, highlighting how the very foundations of our legal and institutional systems are designed to foster such exchanges. The sense of humility was both visible and immediate in the judge's demeanor. Her admission of vulnerability, her acknowledgement that there is room for improvement, was reaffirmed by an emotional and spontaneous reaction from the audience. A group of onlookers, perhaps lawyers or officials, later expressed that they had never encountered such pure sincerity, such genuine clarity in official discourse before. They appreciated the honesty, what they described as a rare clarity and alertness to the intricacies of governance that the judge had exhibited. During this exchange, Judge Jones looked at Crockett with a gentle smile, one that softened her usually stern features and conveyed warmth. She addressed the Congresswoman with genuine respect and a tone that felt supportive. "Congresswoman," she began, "I would be glad to help you understand how genuine progress and the safeguarding of institutional integrity can align harmoniously rather than oppose one another." Judge Jones then explained something fundamental about the nature of government institutions, how they are interconnected, and how their functions complement each other. This was not just verbal reassurance. It was a reminder that each branch of government has its own role and responsibilities, which must be respected and understood. She highlighted that each segment of government, including the legislative and judicial branches, is tasked with analyzing and addressing complex issues by applying laws that are rooted in the Constitution. These laws serve as both guidelines and constraints, ensuring that the entire system remains balanced and that power is not concentrated or abused. She pointed to the hall of decisions displayed prominently on a wall in her chambers, decisions that historically had been challenged for upholding injustice. These examples underscored a critical point. The goal of adjudication is not to endorse or reinforce injustice, but to evaluate whether laws require change in light of justice and fairness. Her role, she told Crockett, was to assess whether existing laws are consistent with the principles of justice and whether they need to be reformed, always respecting the boundaries set by the Constitution and never overstepping into areas beyond its scope. Her words conveyed a deep understanding that institutions must constantly adapt and evolve. The purpose of reform is not to dismantle rules arbitrarily, but to improve them while respecting the fundamental boundaries that define their authority. This includes a careful review of laws that may inadvertently perpetuate inequality or unfairness, and deciding whether and how such laws need to be changed to better serve justice. All this, she explained, must be done without crossing institutional lines. That delicate balance requires wisdom, patience, and clarity. Crockett listened intently, her mind absorbing the profound lessons about governance and the importance of maintaining the rule of law. She prepared detailed notes, small, carefully written entries, no longer viewing her as merely an eager legislator, but as an apprentice seeking a deeper understanding of the bigger picture. Her notes did not reflect a desire to aggressively challenge or oppose. Rather, they revealed an earnest curiosity, a wish to comprehend the complex interplay between legislative initiatives and judicial review. As she observed the judge's explanations, Crockett's thoughts turned to specific issues, such as sentencing disparities, that she believed to be unjust. This moment prompted her to recognize that systemic inconsistencies and disparities within the legal system require careful examination and correction. Her humble act of taking notes was not just an academic exercise, but an indication of her genuine commitment to improving the system, guided by the wisdom imparted during this extraordinary exchange. It was a vivid reminder that effective reform depends on understanding, respect, and a shared dedication to justice, traits that both branches of government must uphold to serve the public effectively. My primary focus must be directed toward advocating for changes in the sentencing laws themselves, rather than merely criticizing the legislative board responsible for enacting the overarching guidelines. This distinction is vital and should be kept clearly in mind. As Adjudicator Jones nodded in agreement, her expression lit up with confidence and understanding. Her response was delivered with a bright, affirming tone, emphasizing her firm belief that the real challenge lies in working within the system to improve its foundational rules, rather than simply condemning those who create them. She explained that her support for a truly independent administrative body, symbolized by the gift of an 18-karat account for administrative independence, was grounded in her conviction that such an entity could serve as a safeguard against hasty or ill-considered reforms that might otherwise impair the integrity of the judicial process. Adjudicator Jones elaborated further, emphasizing that her task is to ensure that the authority overseeing judicial decisions remains firmly rooted in genuine independence, free from undue influence. She highlighted that personifying this ideal involves trusting that the board, which manages the implementation and oversight of laws, must be absolutely committed to reform processes that are both transparent and rooted in established procedures. Such reforms are essential, she stressed, because they allow us to address the deficiencies of existing laws effectively without resorting to superficial or politically motivated changes. Her words conveyed her firm belief that these reforms should not be wielded as tools for partisan politics, but should instead flow naturally through the robust and well-designed institutional mechanisms that govern our system. She paused then, her honesty stark and compelling, revealing her extensive experience spanning over 37 years, watching the evolution of laws within this very institution. Throughout her career, she had observed how even the most well-meaning statutes could lead to unintended consequences that complicate the administration of justice. Her voice grew steadier as she expressed her conviction that many of her colleagues in the legal community would willingly support reforms aimed at addressing these issues, if only they came through the proper channels. Such changes, she pointed out, must derive from established, sound procedures rooted in institutional strength, not from political pressures designed solely to sway administrative decisions in favor of particular interests. The room grew tense as Crockett, ever attentive, watched the exchange closely, her facial expression reflecting the weight of her thoughts. She understood well that her assertion, that boards and legislative bodies must collaborate harmoniously rather than act as adversaries in reforming the system, resonated deeply with the core principles of good governance. It was a reminder that the system's integrity depends on mutual respect and constructive cooperation, not on opposition driven by bitterness over results. Adjudicator Jones confirmed this, nodding with a nod that signaled her unwavering agreement. She acknowledged, with a respectful tilt of her head, that recognizing the roles of different branches of government is vital, and that fostering understanding rather than conflict is key to effective reform. Her words carried a tone of calm resolve, symbolizing a desire for a more balanced and respectful approach to governance, one that remains committed to the built-in checks and balances embedded in our legal framework. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted, transforming from tense debate into a lesson in institutional integrity and mutual understanding. The dialogue had evolved from a fiery confrontation into a masterclass on governance, one that underscored the importance of respect among branches of government and the rejection of any temptation to wield power oppressively or unilaterally. Adjudicator Jones, voice now imbued with a newfound sense of confidence, declared her intention to fundamentally change her approach to discussing and interpreting administrative decisions. From that moment onward, her professional focus would shift toward advocating for legislative reforms aimed at improving the existing laws, rather than criticizing the judiciary or the administrative bodies responsible for executing them. She expressed her sincere hope that her colleagues would accept her renewed commitment by recognizing her accountability and willingness to support positive change. She also took a moment to extend her apologies, emphasizing that in the past, her remarks might have come across as disrespectful or dismissive to colleagues within the legal community. She acknowledged that those of us who serve in public office bear a special responsibility to treat others with respect and fairness, and that she could have expressed her concerns more thoughtfully. Her words reflected humility, acknowledging that the legal professionals and officials who work tirelessly within this system deserve better treatment and support. Her nodding in approval conveyed her genuine appreciation for the gravity of her commitments. Crockett, beyond the immediate courtroom, received these words of acknowledgement with warmth and sincerity. She recognized the importance of this moment, affirming that her dedication and efforts are both praised and deeply appreciated by all present. She also affirmed her determination to be held accountable, not as a critic who merely points out flaws, but as a committed supporter working diligently to uphold the integrity and functioning of the entire system. Her promise signaled a genuine shift toward constructive collaboration and active participation in the ongoing process of reform. The tension that had filled the room just moments before dissolved into a shared sense of purpose and hope. The applause that erupted among the legal professionals was spontaneous and heartfelt, a collective expression of approval and encouragement. It was a soft but steady applause, echoing through the chamber as a testament to the transformative power of genuine leadership and transparent dialogue. In that moment, the courtroom transformed into a space where respect, purpose, and a commitment to lawful and fair governance took center stage, leaving a lasting impression on everyone present, and perhaps for generations yet to come. Just as the members of the legislative body have long been recognized for their unwavering professionalism and strict adherence to decorum, the scene that unfolded before us today demonstrated a rare and profound display of true respect and integrity among public officials. Judge Jones, a respected figure in the judiciary, calmly and steadily accepted the recognition bestowed upon her with an air of humble appreciation. She waited patiently for nearly a full minute, an extended pause that seemed to emphasize her graciousness, before finally responding with a composed statement. As soon as her silence was broken, she offered her thoughts, which many present considered to be the culmination of a remarkable exchange. In her remarks, she emphasized what a great deal of people had been witness to during this extraordinary moment. According to her, what had taken place was not merely a routine interaction, but a vivid illustration of the very principles and ideals our founding fathers envisioned when they created the framework of our government. Her voice carried both authority and warmth, resonating with a clarity that made it evident that she spoke from a place of conviction. She underscored that different branches of government, being the legislative, executive, and judicial, can engage in respectful conversations about their respective roles. Each branch, she explained, is committed to the fundamental goal of serving the American populace while simultaneously setting clear boundaries that prevent overreach. Turning her attention, she directed her words to Representative Crockett, addressing her with genuine respect and admiration. With utmost sincerity, she acknowledged Crockett's actions, which today had made waves across the political landscape. In her speech, she highlighted how Crockett had, in this instance, exemplified the kind of honest governance that is essential for the health of democracy. Her words reflected the understanding that even esteemed officials can err, but admitting mistakes and securing an honest dialogue is what strengthens the very fabric of our system. She pointed out that sometimes true leadership involves accepting one's shortcomings and engaging in dialogue driven by humility rather than pride, traits that our current economic and political environment desperately needs. As the session drew to a close, marking the end of an ordinary matter, yet an extraordinary moment, something unexpected occurred that captured everyone's attention. Several other members of the assembly approached Crockett in a show of support and respect. They extended their hands, shook her firmly, and expressed their admiration for her humility and renewed commitment to the core principles on which the government rests. This gesture was not merely symbolic, but signaled a collective acknowledgement that the trust necessary for effective governance can be rebuilt through civility and mutual respect. The audience's reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Speculating about the significance of what they had just witnessed, many declared it one of the most powerful displays of institutional integrity and collaborative spirit they had seen in decades. It was a moment that transcended party lines, illustrating how honest dialogue and willingness to admit fault can transform conflicts into unity. Footage of Crockett responding graciously and Judge Jones's thoughtful reply quickly spread across social media platforms, where millions of viewers from all corners of the political spectrum reacted with applause and commendation. What made this particular event so impactful was its rarity in today's polarized climate. In an era increasingly characterized by bitter partisan battles, personal attacks, and frequent accusations of dishonesty, it was almost surreal to witness a sitting congresswoman openly acknowledging a mistake and acting with humility, while a federal judge responded with dignity and grace. This exchange, rooted in civility, seemed to reaffirm that such respect and openness, though seldom seen, are still possible in American politics. Soon after, many prominent news outlets circulated stories emphasizing the importance of this moment. Their reports highlighted how Crockett's sincere humility, combined with Judge Jones's wise and measured response, exemplified the kind of interbranch cooperation that is vital for a healthy democracy. Experts and commentators from across the ideological spectrum hailed it as a classic example of how government branches should collaborate, with mutual respect, honest dialogue, and a collective commitment to fundamental principles. Observers noted that the scene defied the usual narrative of confrontation and discord, instead revealing a glimpse of what could be achieved when individuals choose humility over hostility. Renowned institutions, such as Harvard Law School, and leading legal scholars remarked on the significance of what had transpired. Professor Lawrence Tribe, a prominent voice in legal education, described Crockett's actions as a display of true political courage, illustrating that acknowledging one's errors can be a sign of strength rather than weakness. Likewise, Judge Jones's response demonstrated how judicial independence can be exercised with both steadfastness and kindness, reinforcing the idea that judicial and legislative branches can work together harmoniously when guided by shared respect and understanding. The day's events did not go unnoticed beyond the halls of Congress. The American Bar Association, an esteemed organization representing legal professionals nationwide, issued a thoughtful statement praising both women for exemplifying core values of public service. They commended their embodiment of ethical principles, such as integrity, humility, and respect for the rule of law, that define responsible leadership. Their actions served as a shining example that even in tumultuous times, integrity and civility remain achievable ideals, inspiring countless others to emulate such conduct. In conclusion, what we observed was not merely an isolated incident, but a shining testament to the possibility of civility, humility, and genuine cooperation in American governance. It demonstrated that even amidst political adversity and entrenched polarization, moments of shared respect and mutual understanding can emerge, restoring faith in democratic institutions. This act of acknowledging faults, engaging in honest dialogue, and responding with dignity reaffirmed that, at their best, American public officials can uphold the fundamental principles upon which their nation was founded, guiding the way toward a future marked by collaboration and respect. Following the dissemination of the official account, a wave of praise quickly grew, emphasizing that the exchanges between lawyers and public officials often revolve around the negotiation of significant opportunities and the forging of influential relationships across different branches of government. These interactions, when conducted with integrity and transparency, are fundamental to maintaining a healthy and functioning democracy. Such principles were exemplified by Adam Braid, a figure representing Jasmine Crockett, whose experience highlighted the importance of mutual respect and constructive communication within the political arena. That particular moment marked a crucial turning point, a clear illustration of how accessible and genuine approaches to leadership can shape the trajectory of public service. It served as an unmistakable testimony to how honest dialogue and a willingness to listen can influence perceptions and decision-making processes at the highest levels of governance. In the months that followed, Crockett openly reflected on this incident in various interviews, choosing to speak candidly about how her perspective had been profoundly altered by the experience. Her honesty shed light on how personal encounters and real-time lessons can deeply influence a politician's understanding of accountability and the role of institutions. During a televised interview, Judge Jones recounted a memorable encounter with Crockett that left a lasting impression, an encounter she described as unforgettable. Crockett, speaking openly on the program, shared with viewers how this experience taught her a valuable lesson, that behaving recklessly or publicly, apologizing without true sincerity, can sometimes stem from disrespect towards the very institutions that serve as the backbone of democratic governance. She emphasized that her own role was not to manipulate her way through political challenges, but rather to contribute to the development of more effective laws. Her goal was to empower legislative frameworks in a manner that allowed lawmakers to serve the public's interests more capably and efficiently. When asked what motivated her to issue a deeply personal apology, a gesture that was both publicly vulnerable and outwardly contrite, Crockett's response reflected significant personal growth. She explained that sometimes the most impactful action a leader or public figure can undertake is to acknowledge a mistake sincerely and accept responsibility. Through this act of humility, she demonstrated that recognizing one's errors can be a powerful step toward restoring trust and credibility. Crockett further articulated that her acknowledgement was rooted in an understanding that her initial approach had been harsh and insensitive. She focused on the core principles that she cared about most, namely fairness, justice, and the integrity of her work. Judge Jones, in turn, helped her to see that maintaining institutional integrity and striving for accountability are not in opposition, but are actually complementary forces. Together, they form the essential pillars that uphold a robust democratic system. In her subsequent public reflections, Judge Jones elaborated on how pivotal that moment was for the health of American democracy. She described it as a defining instance that demonstrated how the actions of Congress members, when driven by a genuine desire for reform and understanding, can serve to strengthen the entire democratic framework. Congresswoman Crockett's demonstration of humility and willingness to learn exemplified the very qualities needed in leadership, namely, the readiness to grow, adapt, and prioritize the collective good over personal pride. This incident underscored a fundamental truth, that leadership within government functions best when it recognizes the importance of respectful dialogue and mutual recognition of each branch's role. Respecting the separate yet interconnected responsibilities of different officials ensures a system based on collaboration rather than confrontation. Today's exchanges proved that constructive conversations, centered on sincere engagement and shared purpose, can coexist peacefully alongside efforts for meaningful change and reform. Furthermore, The ripple effects of their dialogue resonated beyond the courtroom, inspiring educational institutions. Law schools across the nation began to incorporate footage of this exchange into their curricula, leveraging it as a prime example of the importance of respectful interbranch communication and effective dialogue. Political science professors viewed the interaction as an exemplary model of how the principles of respectful debate and negotiation should influence political behavior. Most significantly, these exchanges catalyzed a notable shift in political conduct. Observers noted that the example set by Crockett and Judge Jones encouraged many others in political circles to reconsider their own approaches, moving away from adversarial tactics toward more collaborative and constructive engagement. Over subsequent weeks, numerous lawmakers re-examined their own rhetoric and strategies, inspired by this demonstration of integrity and heartfelt accountability. Approximately 6 weeks after their first shared appearance, Crockett and Judge Jones appeared together once again at a major national law symposium dedicated to discussing advocacy, reform, and institutional responsibility. Their joint presentation marked a remarkable transformation. What was once perceived as an unlikely clash of personalities had evolved into a symbol of cooperation and mutual respect. Their dynamic, once marked by conflict, now stood as a testament to how adversaries can become allies through understanding and shared commitment to democratic principles. Their discussion on how government branches can work together harmoniously, emphasizing the importance of advocacy, systemic reform, and institutional accountability, resonated deeply with the audience, earning standing ovations from legal and political professionals alike. This event was widely hailed as a model example, illustrating the ideal way in which government entities should collaborate, centered on open dialogue, shared goals, and a collective dedication to serving the public good. Overall, their story underscored the transformative power of honest communication and principled action within the complex machinery of American democracy. Certainly. Here's a deeply reworked and expanded version of the original text, rewritten in fluent, polished English, with careful attention to clarity, cohesion, and nuance, while maintaining all core ideas and enhancing their elaboration. What I gained from the exchange between Judge Jones and Congresswoman Crockett was a profound lesson about true progress and the foundations upon which meaningful change must rest. It became clear that genuine improvement, or what some might call authentic progress, begins fundamentally with compassion and a sincere commitment to the right processes, those that are properly aligned with justice, respect, and integrity. It's impossible to build stronger, more resilient institutions solely by unsettling or undermining the very principles that serve as their bedrock. Instead, solid support for enduring systems comes from nurturing their core values and ensuring that their foundational principles remain intact. During their public interaction, Judge Jones momentarily appeared to reconsider his stance, ultimately recognizing and embracing Crockett's perspective as a leader. This shift was not merely superficial. It reflected a deeper understanding that sincere development, be it in societal, institutional, or personal terms, can only be achieved when there is harmony between progress and the fundamental accountability that keeps institutions stable. Crockett, in turn, demonstrated convincingly that caring innovation and institutional strength are mutually reinforcing. They can propel one another forward in ways that are both meaningful and equitable. She openly articulated that since she entered public service, her dedication to advancing progress has become both more impactful and more rooted in the recognition of inherent boundaries, the intrinsic limits that safeguard fairness and stability. Her words underscored the importance of respecting those limits as essential to achieving sustainable improvement. The enduring rapport between her and the legal community, especially with her colleagues at Bell, was vividly recognized across political circles for its sincerity and effectiveness. It became a model for younger attorneys and future policymakers, an example of how to discern errors delicately, correct them constructively, and turn potential conflicts into opportunities for collaboration and mutual understanding. A young, committed legal assistant remarked with admiration that what Judge Jones and Congresswoman Crockett demonstrated that day went far beyond mere civility. They offered a living illustration of an ideal rooted in the ethos of American capitalism, where robust institutions are not built on discord or confrontation, but through respect, humility, and a shared dedication to core values. Their respectful engagement served as a masterclass, a clear and memorable lesson on how the American political and legal landscape can be designed to prioritize collective progress over personal pride and competitive victory. This exchange was a vivid reminder that true strength in our institutions does not originate from alienation or divisiveness, but from the willingness to listen, to engage humbly, and to find common ground. It emphasized that collaboration grounded in mutual respect and a genuine sense of shared purpose fosters resilience and progress far more effectively than petty conflicts or ego-driven disagreements. At a time when such exemplars have become increasingly rare, this moment in the legal arena reignited a vital truth: that wisdom, civility, and the integrity of institutions still hold immense power to guide us. It reaffirmed that these values can serve as a guiding light, even amid the complexities and divisions of modern governance. It showcased that true leadership involves embodying those qualities: humility, respect, and an unwavering commitment to enduring principles that elevate the collective good. Ultimately, Judge Edith Jones's passionate call for protecting institutional independence, paired with Congresswoman Crocketts' heartfelt acknowledgement and respect, transmitted a message far beyond the courtroom's walls. They delivered an important reminder that American capitalism and its associated institutions flourish not when leaders are rigid or self-centered, but when they are willing to learn, to adapt, and to put the health of the institutions above personal ego. Their example illustrated that genuine leadership requires a willingness to evolve, to listen, and to prioritize the larger mission over individual pride. If this story, an inspiring tale of shared wisdom, humility, and steadfast institutional integrity, has rekindled your faith in the capacity of American leadership to rise above partisanship and ego, then stay attentive to stories like this. Consider reflecting on the ideals of character, ethical leadership, and institutional loyalty that underpin such moments of unity. Remember, these qualities are vital in shaping a future where progress is rooted not in confrontation, but in respectful dialogue and shared purpose. We encourage you to share your perspectives in the comments, to tell us about other examples of honorable leadership and sincere institutional commitment that inspire you. We believe that stories of true integrity and humility can serve as powerful models for all of us. Together, by celebrating these virtues, we can foster a culture where leadership rooted in genuine character and a dedication to the common good continues to thrive and guide us forward. This expanded version provides more detailed explanations, smoother transitions, and richer context to ensure clarity and engagement.